The SuccessDay Podcast. Here we deep dive into people technology, talking to inspiring guests about the future of HR.
We don't use technology, AI, in interview processes. The human connection is the number one thing that is important.
Welcome to the SuccessDay Podcast. I'm here with Erwin Hoogeveen, CHRO of Fugro, and I would say visionary in HR technology. Erwin, welcome.
Thank you.
Erwin, can you tell us a bit about yourself and where are you working, what are you doing?
Well, as you said, I'm the CHRO of Fugro, and I'm doing that now for 10 years already. But I'm already in this working field in HR for over 30 years. So I've seen technologies come and technologies go. I can tell, but still very exciting. On a very nice journey within Fugro, from an organization that had no HR technology to, I think, we are working on cutting edge technology right now. So super interesting.
Nice, and we're definitely going to talk about this today. We've known each other maybe even also not 10 years, but I think
quite long.
Quite long.
Yeah.
And you're also a jury member of the HR Technology Awards. So I know you that you are always on the forefront of HR tech. Was that always the case, or?
Yeah, I always try to use technology to make life easier for myself, my team, but also for the organization. I always believed in that technology enables companies to perform better. I always had a knack for technology. My wife always tells me that, you bought another gadget. So also I do this at home.
It's really in veins.
It's in the veins.
It's in the veins.
So which is quite nice, especially now with all the new developments. I think it's super exciting period again. And like I said in the beginning, I saw technology come and go. There's a lot of new language with the same kind of stuff, and I think you recognize that. But now I think we're at the forefront again. To really disturbing technologies also in HR.
And then specifically, you mean probably AI.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, AI.
If you start at the beginning, you started at Fugro and then they didn't have any technology to support your life cycle. Is that the case?
No, it was quite interesting. So I joined a engineering company that has a lot of engineers, smart engineers, but they didn't capture the knowledge of those engineers in any system. So when I came in, one of the first things I did, it put a system in place, and we decided to go with Workday. Which fitted our organization best, but it really was like an admin kind of tool. So how many people do you have? Where are they? How much do they get paid? Who gets a bonus? Who doesn't? So really admin kind of related in the beginning, but we quickly transformed that into how can we enable the business more with adding more functionality to the system, and now it transferred completely into a much more business system and not an admin system anymore. So now we predict workforce planning, skills needed for the future, etc., versus that you just put, the number of people in the system.
And is this a push from you or a demand from the organization?
No, I think it's a little bit both. We push a lot because we show the organization what is possible, and working with engineers, they completely see right away, this brings value and that doesn't bring value. I think that's also important. So I don't want to bring things that don't bring value to the business. So I have a very good dialogue with the business. But then it's also pooled now, and I must say that I think. If you look at the system, the Workday system we have, it's now linked in all the veins into the organization. It's linked to finance, it's linked to HSSE, it's linked to the commercial. That's the CRM. And that's quite amazing, I must say. I have a wait list of departments that want to link with my system, our system, the HR system, to ensure the right data is there.
And so you move really from getting the basic rights into be innovative as CHRO and adding value to the business. What is the thing that you are most proud of? And then specifically, what kind of business problem did you solve using this technology?
Well, I'm mostly proud of the fast pace we did it in. We implemented Workday in 8 months' time. We launched it globally in one time. So we did not go for a phased implementation, but we launched it in one time, and it was immediately adapted by the business. Spent a lot of time on data and data quality. We pushed very hard on that. So I'm mostly proud about that we did it fast, furious, and it was adapted by the business right away. We also transformed from that HR did a lot of things for the business, but that business had to do a lot of self-service now in the system. And that was completely adapted as well in the organization, from top to bottom. So it's a joint success of the global HR team and the business together.
How did you get the buy-in for getting the employee and management self-service? I get a lot of questions from customers. They say, our business doesn't want it. They still want to.
Yeah, but it all starts in the top. So I convinced the board at that time, and I said, if you guys don't support this, I'm not going to do this. Then you have an admin system, and that's it. I will stop at that. But you really have to enable, or you have to have a board or senior management organization supporting your journey into this. And I was able to convince them of the value of going to the next level and even the next level after that. And that's the start. Obviously, you need to do a whole change program in the organization. And we decided not to use the stick, but the carrot. So we had a lot of programs in place. The first team that does this gets that. The first person that does this gets that. And so we had all kinds of competitions going on in the world. And we published about that. So we could see somebody with an iPad or an iPhone who was the first doing this and that in Workday. So the organization was really prepped of just going into the system and doing things. And we just finished, I just had a call, with our CFO. And we are wrapping up our salary increases globally. And everything is done in Workday. The whole salary process is done in Workday. We have salary scales, salary bands in Workday per country. There's a budget per country. So we can manage at top level, how much budget we spend globally. And we can really zoom in on the different countries and the different functions in the organization. And then next week it's a push of the button, and it flows automatically to payroll.
Yeah, so you don't have any manual activities there.
Nothing is manual anymore.
It's quite a change. And if I ask you on the 1, 2, or 3 things you are most proud of, where you started and where you are today, can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, that's this is one of the things, of course. If you so the technology part, I think there's in Fugro no department. This is a bold statement now. No department that is so cutting edge and successful implementing global processes and systems as we are in HR. That's also because we own it. So it's not owned by IT, it's not owned by finance, it's owned by us, by HR. So, and we push it into the organization. And it's I don't know why it is. Maybe it's Fugro, it's the DNA of the people there. I don't know. We have great people working for us. And it's just adapted. So in the organization, super proud of that. But we also created a few years back a different organization structure. With my HR team, we were helping the business going from a division organization to a more regional organization. Whole change process around that, including changing things in your system, obviously. But I'm super proud about that. We launched our new values a few years back, and we rolled that out globally. And if you ask somebody in Fugro what our values are, everybody knows. And really people feel that as well. So I'm super proud about that, because that's also something my team enabled in the organization. So it's not only technology we do, no. It's a broader thing, obviously.
Yeah, but you use technology to being an enabler.
Totally, yes.
And your biggest lessons learned in the past years? or your biggest failure, whatever you wanted to call it.
Yeah, failures I don't think too much about, to be honest with you. Of course, there are failures, but the biggest lessons learned is it's all about people. So I'm super proud of my team. I think my team is the best in the industry, and I truly believe that. If you look at my leader for HR systems, she is like the best there is. But it's the same with my person who runs Reward, Karen, and if you see Tessa on talent and leadership, and Martian on learning, I have the best team in the world, and that makes a difference. So I remember very clearly my dad when I started to work. He says, Erwin, there's one thing you need to be aware of. You need to hire the best people around you because that enables you to become successful. And I always listen to that lesson. So that's the biggest lesson learned. And I always advise also people in other companies that ask me, what's the difference here? It's like, make sure you have the right people on the boat. And then you can do miracles. I'm convinced about that.
Fully agree. And then working as one team, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You can put the best soccer players together, but that doesn't mean you will be champion. But
we talk about it often. And if you have a good team and a strong team, that doesn't mean that team always agrees with you. So it's hard work. I always tell my boss, our CEO, is like, my God, this is hard work. The result is there, but I have also the battle scars of the discussions with my team, and I really also how do you say that? I promote that. So I don't want people to agree with me. I want people to hold a different perspective.
We are the same. You know that. If you don't have good discussions, then you don't get the best results.
Totally.
Right? I always say to my team, not necessarily do what I say immediately because it's not always the best.
No,
it's probably very fast, but it's not the best.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's always the discussion between best of breed or best of system, right? Best of breed, the best tools available for a certain process, or best of system, everything in one system.
Yeah.
What have you chosen and why?
Yeah, I'm a fan of everything in one system. So obviously my team sometimes comes that, hey, let's take a look at this tool and this software, etc. And I always say, okay, listen, can Workday do this? Because I want to make it easy for people in your organization. But sometimes that doesn't work. So then you really have to, go to a different vendor, and then you make sure the connection is made. But my first question is always, can we put this in one system, please? And now with everything that's going on built on Workday, and you can basically build a lot of apps now yourself. So or with partners, obviously. So I'm now more onto that track, that I say, okay, there's this software we want, or this functionality we need. It's not in the system, but can we build it?
Yeah. I think that's also where it's going, and it's similar with you talk now about Workday, but you of course have the other big vendors like SuccessFactors and Oracle. They all go in the same direction. And my opinion is, if you really want to leverage on AI, then it's best to have all the data in one system. Yeah. Because then you can really leverage on the big pile of data instead of having one tool that's very good in recruitment. But have you ever now at Fugro, if you want to share, other tools where you thought, okay, this I purchased a different tool for a specific reason?
Yeah, we purchased two tools like a few years back, but we're shutting them down actually because what you have that's the other interesting what you see. Is then the business or the regional teams come to me and say, okay, we want to put this system on top of the system because it's, then we have more information and etc. But I always say, yeah, but listen, you still need to feed the system. It's not that the work disappears. And that's what you see. So we bought these two systems, or we signed contracts for them. And now I measure how much it's used. It's hardly used. So then I shut it down again. That sometimes happens. Then the functionality is still needed, but why is it not used? Because the system we put on top, you need to feed it. So now we're looking into, okay, can we build an app or can we do something with AI that actually can make that functionality that is needed for the business.
Yeah. If you look back, let's say the last 2 to 3 years compared to a decade ago when you started, are there things that have fundamentally changed in the HR technology space?
Well, if you look at what we deal with within Fugro, is that Workday started to buy more and more companies without, necessarily completely integrate them. So I think we work together also with Peakon, which is now obviously a Workday vendor or Workday company. Sorry. You saw that there's like bits of technology bolted on to the system, and I questioned a little bit also when I engaged with the people from Workday. What's the strategy behind this now? Because they were always like one system, one code, one have you, and so
one Workday.
One Workday. So I saw that move, So I saw that over the last 2-3 years. That was the biggest change. I'm not looking into. And so I want to say that as well into many other technologies. I read a lot about it, but I don't see a lot of new stuff. I do this already for 30 years, and you see a lot of the same things with different names. And so I think now, as of now, you see of a year back, you see with AI. That is, I believe, like the next frontier again, where we need to conquer, I would say.
And that's nice that you say that, because that's exactly my next question. What do you think will change fundamentally in people technology in the coming 2 to 3 years? AI is one.
Yeah, I think it will be more predictive. And some tried that in the past already, but I think with AI and opening up the different systems, it can become truly predictive. So that you already know what skills are needed for the future, or you can run scenarios in the system that if this happens, what does it do with my workforce composition, and that you can prepare for that. So I think that will be going forward the biggest change.
And if you look at who owns people technology, is that the IT department, or is it the HR department, or is it a combination? What's your vision on that?
I would say that we own this as HR, but I must say that we now have a really capable CIO that I can really also talk to about, and he understands. I don't want anybody else outside of HR touching my system, because it took a long time to build it as it is. People need to have a really, really good story if they want to do something with Workday. If they want to interface with us, finance is completely interface with Workday. Like I said, HSSE is, and a couple of other departments. Of course, we do this with them together, but it's my team managing this. And IT is supporting us on that.
So you own the contract, and
I didn't want to say it out loud, but we own it. We own it. Yes.
Next question.
Yeah.
Innovation speed. It goes so fast, right? I sometimes feel like a 60-year-old trying to keep up.
Yes.
And I also saw that the big vendors are buying up the niche tools,
indeed,
in order to keep up with innovation. How do you and your team keep up with everything that's coming?
Yeah, I really encourage my team to go and to talk to go to seminars, to go to talk to people, to read up on what the developments are in the different responsibilities within HR. So not only on the recruitment side, but also on talent, on the reward, what is out there. I think what is interesting, at least that what I see with Fugro, is the knee-jerk reaction was, this is dangerous, so we need to close everything down. And so especially on the AI stuff. And we were already doing things in my team, and it was actually blocked and stopped by the organization because they didn't understand. And that's what I find. That's the phase where we're in now. We actually had a very good presentation last week about from our CIO that he wants to open it up more and do more on citizen development and what have you. But my team was ready to do this already last year. I'm very lucky that everybody in my team is very switched on the technology side, because again, it makes our life easier. And that's also something I also talk with our CEO about, and he's very much into that. It's like, how can we make life easier for the people that work for us? And so if it's more intuitive, if there's less authorization needed, etc., we are all for that. How can you establish that? To make sure that you have the right system in place, that you maybe have AI talk to the different pieces of it, and process the thing you need to process.
Thanks. Maybe asking the obvious, but what are the elements where you don't use technology? Are there specific things in the company where you say, this is a no-go, we don't want to use technology?
No, but listen, we don't use technology, AI, in interview processes or looking into resumes, etc. I think that is really something people still need to do. I'm a little bit afraid of the bias in certain AIs with regard to filtering candidates, what you have. So if you look at our recruitment process, yes, it's all funneled through the system, etc., etc. But after that, it's still humans that do this.
Yeah.
And that's let's not forget, we are human resources. So I think it's super important that we stay connected with people, and that you don't lose yourself, that it's all about technology alone.
You hide behind the system.
No, I don't like that.
Computer says no.
No, we don't do that. And what we do, I think is super important. We listen to people. So if they see something that doesn't work in a system, or a process can be better or different, then we really, really listen to that and look at that. And so the human connection, the people connection, is the number one thing that is important.
Yeah, to add to that, we help customers also with mapping their employee journeys, and I always say that's the soft side of HR, and then you start first talking about the moments that matter.
Yes.
And the moments that matter very, very often are not technology. So recently we had a customer where they had an interview process, and you can automate the reply. Thank you for your resume. Don't call us, we call you. Saves a lot of time for recruiters. But in this case, of course, this company said, no, there's a war on talent. This is a moment that matters. When there is a match, yes, the system can make a match, but then we plan a meeting, right? And I think
that's what we do as well. I have now a call in my agenda scheduled with a candidate that needs to be interviewed next week. I interviewed the candidate already, and the call that I do, the follow-up call, is like I prepare that person for the next interview. You're going to talk to this person and that person, so I think that's super important. So I like your example there.
Is there, because when you started at Fugro, you had probably, like I had it back in the days, everything in Excel with a lot of VLOOKUPs.
Oh, yes.
Are there now specific metrics that you can report on much, much better, where you have examples that it improved also the company?
Yeah, I almost want to say I can invite you to come to and I can show you some reports we give to the business, and dashboards we show to our leadership teams. We report every month on people metrics to the board of management and to our senior leadership team. There is so much data we use to convince the business, or to inform the business about, hey, listen, this is your the setup or the distribution in your organization. Look at this, look at this, look at that. If the business comes down, what's the result in the open vacancies? There's so much information. I mean, it's unbelievable how much data we have
compared to 10 years. 10 years ago.
And the old days, the data was about, you were like you felt proud as an HR professional if you could tell the headcount. And in the old days, that was like very difficult because everything was in Excel, and when you reported the headcount, you already knew it was old.
I don't know if you had the same, but I always had in my companies I worked for, before I had proper systems in place, that finance had always different different headcount, different labor costs.
Indeed. And so, but now we have real-time headcount, and it's linked with the finance system. Yeah. So finance and HR is the same data.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember the old days sometimes, and it's how far we came, and that's quite interesting. Sometimes you hear from companies that are still that they don't have a system, and I get calls many times from my peers with other companies, like, how did you do that with Workday in your company, and what's the added value? But it's unbelievable what a good people system can do for your organization.
Absolutely. And those peers that call you, you give them my number, right?
Always. You know that.
Yeah, and still to this day, because we are only doing HR technology, but there's so much companies that still don't leverage on proper technology support. And recently I came with a lot of customers or prospects. I said, are you still making your contracts or your letters? Does somebody does that manually? That's really a waste of time. If somebody still makes a contract by hand, or downloading data out of a system and then putting it in Excel to make a pivot to put it in a PowerPoint, it's really a waste of time. If companies are still doing that, at least my vision is you can use that time much better.
That's correct. We are also not doing that anymore. Everything is generated out of Workday, contracts out of Workday, everything, and that's why you need to standardize, and that is maybe the most difficult part when you work in a creative organization as Fugro. I had to really learn for these kind of processes. If you standardize on the front end, the back end is so much easier for us. In the beginning, they like to be creative with all kinds of different versions of different stuff, but not anymore.
There's always a lot of emphasis on cost saving when you implement technology. Have you realized cost saving, or do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I have a different view on that. So when we started this journey 9 years ago, and we were looking for a vendor, for a people system, cost was not part of the selection criteria. Because if you put cost there, then finance makes the decision to go with the cheapest system. And that's where we started. Now, we bring value. And if that value brings that you can do with less people or different people or what have you, that is fine. But it was never the goal. Never the goal. And to be honest with you, and I think, I'm sure you know this, we manage the whole technology suite in-house with a in-house HRIS team, dus a HR technology team. I think there are 8 people in that team. And that team was not there before we started with Workday. So I actually added people to my organization. Obviously, you can outsource this, etc., etc. I don't believe that will be any less expensive. And so people that go into this journey thinking they can save a lot of money, I think they're wrong. I think you need to think in a way that you add value to the business. What value do we add? How fast can we process certain processes without, mistakes, obviously. No, money was, and my CFO will hate me for this, so I need to be careful what to say, obviously. But it's about adding value.
I fully agree, of course. Is there anything we missed? Anything we need to tap into? I didn't look at all these cards.
No, I know, but I think it's nice to have this conversation, and I can talk hours and hours on this. And I'm not saying that I'm right, but I think, especially in Workday, or especially in Fugro, sorry, not Workday, they think I have, in Fugro, they think I have shares in Workday, by the way, which I have not. But no, if you look at the technology journey we went through, especially with Fugro, I think it's an amazing story, and I'm super proud talking about it. So everything we achieved in the organization, but also with our partners and vendors, and with the team that actually did it, which are the people in my organization, and I'm super proud of that.
Erwin, thank you for joining this podcast and sharing your insights on people technology. If you want to learn more, then listen to our podcast and please subscribe.